Welcome to the Benson Wealth Podcast. I take complex financial and economic topics and make it accessible to the everyday listener. My name is Drew Benson. I'm the president and founder of Benson Wealth Management and a senior wealth advisor with my broker-dealer, Raymond James. I'm also the co-managing partner for True North Wealth Management Group, which is a platform for independent wealth advisors. I'm a trained economist and a certified financial planner. Now, today I interview the CEO and founder of Infinio, Cole Snell. So this is the second part of my interview with Cole. Last week, you heard all about his company, Infinio. This week, we talk about his personal journey, where he came from, companies that he started, what interests him. We also talk about one of my favorite subjects, and that's the qualities necessary to become a successful entrepreneur. I hope you enjoy. Can I steal, I know we've already starting to go closer to the hour. Can I steal 20 minutes? Because I'd love to talk about your personal journey for a little bit. Are you good on time?
Yeah, we're good.
So I want to come to your entrepreneurial story, but I'm worried I'm going to forget. So I'm going to ask now. So you're in the Bahamas and because I was following the SBF, the Sam Bankman-Fried thing very closely. So you were Sam Bankman-Fried's next door neighbor, is that the deal, or close to him?
Close to him. I was next door neighbors with his number 3. Let's put it that way. Like literally neighbors, next door neighbors. One of my best friends was his actual real neighbor in Albany, but we worked very, very close. Like the Bahamas is a very small community. Let's put it that way. And the digital asset blockchain community is even smaller. And so, yeah, we were around a lot. We saw each other a lot, and yeah.
It's really fascinating.
Yeah, it was fascinating. And, I think that the story that stands out to me the most is the Bahamas, is the government of the Bahamas. It's, the Prime Minister, the Securities Commissioner, these people, and I'm a resident of the Bahamas. I'm very proud of my status in the Bahamas, and the way that the service providers and the regulators handled this was world class. They really took a big hit, and instead of folding up shop and succumbing to a lot of the scrutiny, they doubled down on regulation. They doubled down on something called the DARE Act, which is a Digital Asset Regulatory Act. And the DARE Act in the world is one of the best frameworks and jurisdictional roadmaps to issue digital assets globally. I mean, it's an absolutely amazing document, and it's issued by their Securities Commission. And part of the reason why FTX in their heyday moved there was because of how robust the DARE Act was. The fall of FTX had nothing to do with the Bahamas, but a lot of people love to lump the Bahamas in.
Yeah, of course.
Part of the reason why it failed. And it wasn't. It was just the opposite. And the Bahamas stayed the course. They doubled down, they worked harder, and now they're even attracting more credible projects because of their attrition and their hard work. So it's always, whenever I talk about, people always want to hear these, like, I was on a panel in Dubai recently talking, and people tried to bait me into talking about like FTX stories and living in the Bahamas. And I mean, the funniest one was like when CoffeeZilla, who's a famous YouTuber, crypto YouTuber, was there. And I mean, this guy is really, his content is amazing. But I mean, he had drones flying overhead, and there's stories, people trying to get into Albany where Sam lived. And the security's pretty high in this place, and in trunks of cars. And like the Bahamas was a real energetic place for a few weeks. That's for sure.
My fundamental understanding too of the failure was that they were basically taking money, they were borrowing money, and then they were betting on it in their hedge fund Alameda, and chickens came home to roost. The securities went the wrong direction, and then they couldn't pay back what they had borrowed. Is that your understanding of the story?
Yeah, they were. I mean, then then there was the whole FTT token that was their own token that they were just kind of like heavily inflating and printing essentially, and then using that to buy other assets. And it was really, there was nothing behind FTT token, and they were using Alameda, which was the hedge fund. And so there was a lot of commingling of investor money, right? Mm-hmm. And like all just
without permission,
right? Just the typical, Bernie Madoff kind of.
It's a Ponzi scheme. It's basically essentially. Yep.
Basically, it's just basic Ponzi stuff that was happening. And the crazy thing, and I mean, no one knows this, but then there was the issue with CZ, the founder of Binance. He kind of outed and he chess moved FTX, his competition, pretty hard. And I mean, there'll be a movie made about that at some point. And he kind of blew the whistle on what was happening at FTX. But it's widely understood that if that didn't happen, if CZ didn't blow the whistle on FTX and create this essential run on FTX would have been fine. They would have remained solvent, and they would have got into this. Now there's a crypto bull market happening right now. And if FTX could have got to today, and CZ, the CEO of Binance, didn't blow the whistle, none of this would have happened. But the asterisk on that comment is that Sam would have had to have been hit by lightning, and he would have had to come out of that lightning strike with discipline. He would have had to stop doing everything that he was doing. He would have stopped spending and misappropriating investors. Would likely, if someone doing that, human behavior is human behavior. He's not just all of a sudden going to be like, okay, I got away with that. Now I'm gonna.
He would have levered up more. I think he would have. No, see, this is working, everybody. So no one will notice. We'll just borrow a little bit more money over here, and they won't. We'll give it all back, and we're gonna make them money too. So and then you can see how you create this really distorted virtuous cycle in your head where you're like, well, I'm making them lots of money. What I'm doing is not wrong. But the wrong part was really the commingling of the funds, was my estimation of the thing. And to your point, human nature is human nature. And if you don't have a moral compass and you don't have a sense of virtues that guide you and have a sense of principles, then I do think it would have just actually blown up into frankly, probably a much bigger problem that could have been more systemic in nature in terms of affecting our economy.
That's exactly.
So I appreciate the asterisks on that. So let's talk about you. I loved your story. I listened to your interview with Bob Murphy, and I've always really appreciated naturopathic medicine. By the way, I always thought it was like witchcraft until I married this beautiful woman who's kept me healthy and alive all these years.
Okay.
And she was really, when we first got married, she really researched naturopathic medicine. I have been a migraine sufferer most of my life, and the only things that have actually done anything to help me was naturopathic medicine. So I was just curious personally, what got you into naturopathic medicine, and talk us through kind of your career that led to Infinio.
Yeah, I grew up playing a lot of sports, living in a very active environment, and I was drawn. I was working as when I was younger, I was a professional athlete, and in my late teens, early 20s, I was a snowboard backcountry tour guide and a mountain bike out in Whistler, BC. I was working in bike shops and taking tourists down these mountain passes, and I was inclined to go to get educated and do something else I was a ski bum, essentially a glorified ski bum, and I thought maybe I would go to school. I was just because of sports and being outdoors, I was inclined to go into some kind of natural healing or therapy, or just I liked the human body, and fitness was always, and so I was naturally just drawn to that because of my upbringing. And then so I worked as a naturopath for 10 years between about early 20s to early 30s, and it was that experience and then my somehow I had this entrepreneurial spark, and I built a large clinic, and then I built another clinic, and then we started selling supplements out of the clinic, and I realized, you can make a lot more money than me just treating patients. I could make a lot more money by administrating, clinics and marketing clinics, and creating a more passive kind of scalable kind of business. And so I built a series of clinics, and we would hire chiropractors and massage therapists and hypnotherapists and physiotherapists, and have these multidisciplinary clinics. And again, we would sell products out of them as well. And the one thing that really kind of struck me was most people that wanted to get healthier, they would come in and they would just kind of sit down on the table. You do an intake, and you knew they were here to be healthier. And I found that a lot of the practitioners, regardless of who they were giving out the same advice very simply to everybody, which was fundamentally diet and exercise. It was just basic stuff. Before I do any modality or prescribe any esoteric supplement to you, I'm going to suggest that you get exercise and eat better. And so what I found over the 10 years was that eating better was a real conundrum. Exercise was pretty easy to do. Get a good pair of shoes, go for a walk. But it was the food piece that was a real conundrum. So I went on people can't afford it, they don't like the taste of it. So I went on kind of a mission to define find a type of food that was interesting, nutritious, delicious, easy to prepare, and had a really good story. And I found cheese. There was the town I was living in had a local cheesemaker who was a fourth generation world famous Dutch cheesemaker. And I would say to my patients, go out to this cheese farm, and while you're out there, you're walking around on the farm, you're getting some exercise, you're getting fresh air, you're buying something from the earth, you're buying something natural, organic, artisanal, you're meeting the producer, you're creating association between source, and you're doing all these emotional things. And it just became so interesting to me that I thought, the lowest common denominator of life is food. And I said, so I packaged up my clinics, and I sold them, and I had a nice little exit, and I took my capital, I invested into telling stories about food and helping source higher nutritious, high fat, high health. The interesting thing that blew my mind is that a lot of people are lactose intolerant, right? And what the number one cure for lactose intolerance is lactose. That's the crazy thing. It's like you have the number one thing prescribed for people with lactose intolerance is yogurt, right? Yogurt is a dairy product, right? It's lactose, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like that's what it is. But the yogurt is a host for the acidophilus and the bifidus. These are the bacteria that make your gut thrive, right? And so there's this theory, and I won't go into a rabbit hole here, in homeopathic medicine called Avogadro's law, which is that you give yourself a little bit of the thing that makes you sick. It's kind of like how antibiotics work, or
Sure.
or how vaccines work.
Yeah, traditional vaccines.
Right, in a lot of ways. And so so I'm kind of like, how I got into finance was that I realized one day that food was not the lowest common denominator. And I'm sitting here to my sales team, and I'd always have this big chat on a Monday morning before I would send our team out to go sell food, because we didn't sell food, we sold stories. And we would say to our staff, if you don't sell good quality food, what happens to our customers? And they would always say, they die, because if you don't eat, right? That's
right.
And so we got fired up about going to sell good quality food by telling good quality stories, because if you don't eat, you die. Food is but then I realized I was in the clinic, and I was hearing people say, I want to get healthier, and I hear practitioners say, well, diet and exercise. My sales staff are coming back to me at the end of the day, and I go, how are your sales? And they would go, oh, they weren't very good. I go, why? He's like, people can't afford our food. And I go, and it kind of dawned on me. I said, I need to sell this company and move into the financial industry and tell stories about money, because people can't afford the food. Food isn't the lowest common denominator. And it is true that if you don't eat, you die. But if you don't have money, you don't eat, right? Because we're not foraging for our food or growing it. And that's why I moved into the financial industry, is because I realized that money is the lowest common denominator, and that's where the value needs to be added.
I mean, this is. I feel like I said this every episode. So to the listeners, sorry, I'm going to say it again. Money is the technology. It's the medium of exchange. All you're doing is you are acquiring other goods for the exchange of other goods, but instead of doing a bartering system, it's way more efficient to have dollars. And so I think we have these very unhealthy intellectual understandings and emotional understandings of what money really is. And money is the ability to transact and to acquire those goods and services from a pure economic sense that are most necessary. And so I need access to good food. Well, I need the resource, which is money, in order to acquire those things. And so money makes it efficient and effective. And I just appreciate that, because I think it's really easy to view money as greedy and evil and bad. And money is not the root of all evil. Money is just the root of all kinds of evil, not all evil. And so I just appreciate you pointing that out, because I think it matters, and I think food matters, and I think health matters. And money is the tool to acquire a more healthy lifestyle, is what I'm hearing from you, Cole.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk.
Yeah, 100%. Really well said. I love it.
So as we start to wrap this up, I've interviewed a few other entrepreneurs on this podcast, and I consider myself an entrepreneur. And I love to think about, like, what does it take to, like, be an entrepreneur? Like, what are the – because not everyone does it, and maybe not everyone's suited to it. But I love to think through – like the core skill sets, the core mindset behind what it takes to actually have success as an entrepreneur. If you could think of a couple descriptors, if younger listeners that might be out there that are excited or interested in starting a business, what does it take? What are those qualities?
I appreciate I love the question. For me, the one word that comes up is responsibility. I would say to your listeners that if you have an itch, a burning desire, I would suggest that you have a responsibility to go and scratch that itch. If you feel like you want to start a company, you want to go and create something, you want to offer value to another human being, and hopefully you can create a return on offering that value or that solution to somebody, you have a responsibility to go and do it, because there's something calling you, there's something dragging you. Now, the reason that people won't do it is because of fear of failure. But I promise you that anyone that is successful, and this is so cliche, but it's so true. Anyone that's been successful has failed, not once or not twice, but multiple times. A definition of success is moving from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. That's not me. That's Winston Churchill. He said that.
Love that.
But that is it. And if when I'm ultimately I'm a salesman. At the end of the day, I'm a salesman. The number one skill set you can have in business is sales. If you're listening to this and you're a salesman, you're naturally and you have a God-given talent to sell and tell stories, you have a responsibility to go and create a business and to start a business. And you have a responsibility to hurry up and fail and get the failure out of the way. Because as soon as you can get the failure out of the way, now you have the experiences they're going to take to become successful. Who cares if you go bankrupt? Do you think the real winners out there, the Musks of the world, do you think they're afraid of failure? I mean, it's so cliche.
I know.
But nobody is afraid of anyone that is wealthy, and anywhere, if you're in, and that's the other thing too. Back to responsibility. Don't be afraid to say that you love money and making money. Don't be like some of these woke kind of individuals out there when asked the question, do you like money? Oh, no, not me. I wouldn't.
That's a lie.
Like, it's like a lie. Just say, yeah, I love money, and I'm going to make a lot of it, right? That's great. Responsibility too.
And I'm going to make a lot of money providing services and goods that make people's lives better.
Yeah.
And it's a it's a virtuous cycle.
Yeah.
And the markets, the free market in particular, capitalism, has been so misunderstood and maligned, and we confuse it with a lot of other things that it's not. But at its core, pure free markets, capitalism, have been the greatest creator of living standards over the last 100 years. And so many people have been lifted out of poverty. There's a period, I don't know the exact time frame, but it was in a book. What is the name of the book? I think it was guy's name was McIndoe, More from Less, and he pointed out a time frame, and he said there was a 20-year span where the free markets, through people who quote loved money, were spreading market-based economies throughout the emerging markets. Did you know 50% of the globe in a 2-decade span was lifted out of abject poverty. Like, that is something to celebrate. And that's because, going back to good old-fashioned Adam Smith, it's not for the benevolence of the butcher, the baker, or the brewer. We have incentives that drive our human action, that incentivize us to want to make better lives for ourselves by acquiring money, but you can do it in a virtuous and noble way by creating things that make other people's lives better. And that excites me. And I'm with you, brother. Like, this whole virtue signaling, I don't love money. Let's just be honest with what we're trying to accomplish. And let's be honest that the consumers are just trying to have a better life. Yeah. So, yeah, thanks for saying that.
I love it. And thanks for backing me up on it.
Yeah, I got your back, man. Got your back.
I know you do.
So this has been a lot of fun, Cole. I really enjoy getting to know you. I hope we get to talk some more. I love learning about Infinio, your personal story. So thanks again for coming on today.
Thanks, Drew. Appreciate you.
If you've enjoyed this content and you're looking for a wealth advisor, or if you're a financial advisor and you're looking to make the jump to the independent side, please message me on LinkedIn. Or you can email me at drew.benson@bensonwealthmgt.com. Or lastly, you can call my office at 603-316-2544. Securities offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services are offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. Benson Wealth Management and True North Wealth Management Group are not registered broker-dealers, and they are independent of Raymond James Financial Services. The foregoing information has been obtained from sources considered to be reliable, but we do not guarantee that it is accurate or complete. It is not a statement of all available data necessary for making an investment decision, and it does not constitute a recommendation. Any opinions are those of myself and not necessarily those of Raymond James. Expressions of opinion are as of this date and are subject to change without notice. There is no guarantee that these statements, opinions, or forecasts provided herein will prove to be correct. Investing involves risks, and you may incur a profit or loss regardless of strategy selected.